No, absolutely. Because, I mean, part of it is to ensure that there's a relationship among stakeholders in the game. And what a better way of demonstrating that, firstly, by doing what? By signing the collective bargaining agreement. And you remember the collective bargaining agreement talks about, it regulates in actual fact the relationship, but it talks about bread and butter issues. You are able then to sit down and slot in the issues of intermediaries right there, which is the issues of the agents. Let's look back into the issue of the agents, as it were, because it plays a very, very important part in terms of the RSTP to say, where does the money really go when it comes to the transfers of the players? And part of what FIFA wants to do is to keep money in football, which we fully agree. That money that is used in football should remain in football to develop the sport. It has not been the case for years. And we raise this matter. And part of it, which we'll come to, is the issue of allowing the players. Because, I mean, look, if a player doesn't have work, or a player wants to leave at some point, and you are saying to a player, but you cannot, yes, as much as they want to regulate the sport, but this player is unable to leave the club and go play somewhere else simply because there are window periods and stuff and all that, which, let me pack it and I'll get back to it. But we have, let's go back to the issues of the agents in terms of where the money goes. They say the agents can charge the players about 3%. And that's the first part. There are three things. It's an agent that can charge 3%, a club that the player going to can charge 3%, and a homegrown player if a club, because you see, remember, part of the thing is that you want to develop the game, and some monies must go to the clubs. So a club, they identify a player through their development maybe, and it goes through there, they develop it to the best of their ability. And when they sell it from team A to team B being the best, a club in the top ranks, normally they do not get compensation, proper compensation. So they say, FIFA says no. In that case, that club can charge as much as 10%.
Training compensation.
It goes to three issues of training compensation, but when you sell that player, because it's a homegrown player, you can get 10%. But you as an agent, Daveli, you can just get 3% because that's what it is. Because FIFA has recognized that you come as Thulaganyo, you buy a Daveli, you sell him there, you get millions of rands, but that money doesn't come back into the game. You take it somewhere to go and raise your child who plays tennis, cricket, or who is not even in those things, and they go blow that money away. Now, these whole things of rules then begins to address that particular issue, because it's fundamental and it's important that football must ensure that all monies that are in football, they remain within the game.
But here at home, don't you have a problem with this? Because FIFA came with these intermediary regulations and they speak to the 3%, but here at home, the agents, they challenged this and they went back to the FA. I don't know how did this happen. The FA now ended up agreeing with the agents that, okay, we will not stick with 3%, it will be anything between 7 to 10%. Were you consulted as the union to agree with this?
You'd recall that in 2015, when this whole thing started of the agency, we were at the heart of it, being at the heart of it is that, and we would have proposed in terms of what we believe ought to really have happened. Of course, the agents back home, SAFPU, they call themselves, they felt hard done by to say, no, but we're not consulted. We still want to charge so much. But they could not really build a case, a proper case. And remember also, there was a competition commissions that came in to say, but you guys are really fixing prices and so forth. And one of the agents, as you recall, Tim Sugazi, had to settle with the competitions committee, whatever the amount it was and so forth. It was a bit worrying. And indeed, this was a bit worrying. But again, which takes us back to the issues of the collective bargaining agreement if we have. Now, when we have that collective bargaining agreement, we are able to say within SAFPU, as it were, you'd have a player's desk. And part of it is to ensure that you represent the players. If somebody out there wants to come and charge 10%, your SAFPU said, no, wait a minute. We might even charge you 2% to sit and negotiate the contract. Because in all honesty, Tavile, I don't see the reason why agent must charge the exorbitant fees. Of course, maybe there are those agents, but you still need to tell me which one, really goes out of their way and do the work of that agents really do. Because the agent in totality or intermediaries in their totality, they need to sit down, go look for sponsorship. If you've got your own channel, Veli's channel, then they need to go and get that sponsor for you to sponsor me as a player. But we don't do that. The only time you see the agents is when they go and sign a contract. And they sign a contract on the backdrop that the player would have performed very, very well. Now, that such a player or most players do not really need that. But the relationship between us and the league, or the relationship between the clubs and the players, necessitates the fact that we must now have a discussion to say, we've got so many players, let us sit down. That helps to also keep the money within football. Firstly, you're not going to create a superficial economy in the game where everything is blown out of proportion in terms of how much players are worth and so forth. And by the way, I am by no means suggesting that players are not worth millions. If anything, players are worth millions and millions of rands. But the people who then come and put tax on the heads of the players are the ones who are creating a bit of a problem. Sometimes a player wants to move. You are told that no, a player cannot move. It's worth about 10 million. But when you say quantify the 10 million that you're talking about, people are unable to do that, and it destroys the career of the players. No, absolutely. Absolutely. That is why then the regulations come in handy here to say, okay, where does the player come? No, this player was developed by the club. So the club, wherever the player is going to be entitled to 10% in terms of that. But this agent, when you come say, you can only charge 3% in terms of where you need to go. But again, the problem is that in terms of how football has been developed in the country and everything around, is because these agents, what they do. Gaoshubelwe is a very great player. Who's your agent? My agent is Thulaganyo, and Thulaganyo can take you there. When Thulaganyo has not really done anything and is not even a proven agent. Going back to the issue that you raised earlier on of the intermediaries, you would recall that SAFA was supposed to create a database of the agents, which never really materialized. But our position is very simple. Players can no longer be charged a lot of money. Clubs can no longer really be charged a lot of money, which doesn't really come back to football. Both parties must work together, clubs as well as the union, to ensure that everything that's done, it secures firstly the future of the player, and also it grows the football as we know it. Because that's the only way we're going to be able to develop and create extra resource for ourselves and develop for the national squad. But currently, as things are, we will be very stagnant if we are not going to really deal and look at the models that we really need to follow and deal with. Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. Look, as stakeholders, we are open to all stakeholders that are in the game. We need to have those discussions at Avail. There's issues of your match fixing. There's issues of agents, who are unscrupulous and they, taking money from the players. There are those who purport to be very good. And we need to have those discussions. We need to sit down and say, look, your players are our members. Our members got to be represented by you. We want what's best for them. When you go and negotiate, you negotiate as individuals, but when we negotiate, it's a collective agreement that we reach. However, we've got certain skills that you guys don't have, and to the extent that you can push yourself to a particular point, we go all the way, because we know that these are our principals, these are our bosses who are the players, and they tell us what we need. But we need to work on the relationship that we have. A lot of people think that the union, encroach into their, space. The issues of the jurisdiction of the union. The union must only deal with minimum wage, but the union must not deal with the signing of the players and so forth. And these things are interrelated. They are intertwined. You cannot deal with one and leave the other out. But we want to have that relationship, a working relationship. But to the extent that it doesn't affect them, they are fine. But here's the funny part. A lot of them, they would be the first people, when there's a crisis,
yes.
Not even a player calls you.
It's the agent.
It's the agent who calls you. My man, we've got a problem, man. And this is their normal story. Man, tell me, let's say they are in the Western Cape. Who's responsible for the players in the Western Cape? What is the process, if you want players to join you? You must know there's a problem. And they will be the first people to say, man, we've got this case, please, can you help us deal with this matter? And once you deal with this matter, you are done. They grab again from the player, and that's it. But here's the important thing.
And the union doesn't get anything from that 10%?
No, we get nothing. We get nothing from that 3% and stuff and all that. We don't get any cent. But here's the thing, Davin. I've spoken about the issues of stakeholders. All those people who love football and who love footballers, I think it's about time that we get together. And part of our responsibility, firstly, is to educate our members. We really need to educate our members in all aspects of their life, in all aspects of the game, what is expected, be law, be contractual issues, be finances, how does it impact their life, these small dealings that they do, and them as a brand, to say, I'm a player, I'm a brand, what is it that we need to do? I've challenged agents. In my view, we have got one of the best countries that produce best players. The difference is very minimal and small. It's on the issues, when other countries emphasize on small things, maybe technique, this and that. But our players in general, I believe that with a proper education, with proper mentoring, they'll be one among the best. We need to begin to say, let's see the agent that is going to say, I've taken this boy through this process. They are in Spain. Oh, go to the Scandinavian countries because it's open there. We have set this boy here. How did Aaron and them go there? Because they started very small with, developmental kind of football, and that's where they are. But just give me one agent who says, this is our focus, the market is ripe, this is what we need to do. And we really need to deal with that. And if we can deal with issues of the agents, we'll be able to begin to address the issues of immigration and lies that are being told to young African players, not only South African, who always find themselves in Europe not doing anything because they are promised. We've got a program through FIFA that I'm heading on the issues of the migration, in illegal immigration of the players. They find themselves in Asia. They find themselves anyway, and their contracts are being taken away from them, not contracts, the passport. They go into the passport, they find themselves in the streets, there's nothing that they can do. They must then resort to doing other jobs, all jobs other than what they wanted to do in the first place. Now, if we are able to deal with that, and through the regulations that we receive from FIFA, we're then able to approach, and we are closer to achieving the things that we need to do. So the issue of the agents as well, if it's not taken care of, creates a serious problem for us, not only in terms of the finances, but also getting these boys into things. South Africa is a very lucrative organization. A footballing country right now on the African continent. How many players do you think, or how many agents do you think are busy telling players that they will get them jobs in South Africa? And without that education, we're going to have a problem, And we really need to have that kind of education where players would have to do.
I hear you saying we need to work on educating the players. Currently, what platforms are there to fast track this process?
Okay, look, what we have done, we have an agreement with Standard Bank, for an example, okay? Just to deal with issues on financial matters. We still need to revisit that relationship with them, talk about it. We have the SAFPU bursary. For me, that is key. That bursary begin to say to them, you can be an independent, understand what's happening, what's going on, and so forth. We just signed the CBA. That becomes a platform for us, because we are going to workshop both the players as well as the clubs to understand exactly what this CBA is all about. But what do we want? We want people in the finance sector. We want partners. We want people who are willing to work with us and say, if Taveli comes and say to us, look, I have a program in mind. I train players. I want them to be builders. We'll appreciate that, because that's part of the things that we really need to do as a part of empowerment, and that becomes an exit for them. We are preparing a better landing for them. What is it that we need to do? And we're more than willing and open to hold these ideas to say, how do we then prepare them to become better players? Because an educated player, Taveli, is a smart player, because he's not going to allow himself to be moved from left, right, center. But we've got to start somewhere. So for us, those are some of the platforms that we are sitting with and doing everything that we can. Part of it, we have agreements with NGOs like HIV and AIDS issues, where we sit down and we educate the members what is expected. We work with the Gauteng department, health and safety issues, to say, what is it that is expected of them? On key issues, insurance, for an example. What is expected of a player? Do they know about this? How many of the players know about it?
Do they have their own insurance?
Do they have their own insurance as a player? Well and good, you are raising a very important point. You've got a Delphi show, which is sponsored by the league. But Praveli, the insurance is not very expensive. You'll find that to get $1 million, you can get a good insurance, and as a player, you might contribute about 200-300 rand a month.
Income protector.
Income protector.
When they finish playing.
When they finish playing, you've got an income. You sit down and you're like, okay, I've got a short career. Hey, what does my career mean? Okay, it means in 10 years' time, I would have stopped playing. Let me look at this. How does this benefit me? Investment. How does it benefit? But it boils back to the issue of education. And education is not necessarily formal education. There's education where we sit down, we bring people like you. And we need to also bring people like you who would have walked. Because sometimes when you tell them, hey, it's not easy on the continent. You're raising a very important point. How many of the players or former players are able to crack it in that field? It's very difficult. And we need to start training them now. We need to begin to say, because it's one of the programs that we are putting in place to say, when a simple thing is an interview, after the game there's an interview, you've been told, what are you saying? What is it that you must do? What's your posture? Once that you are done with them, where do you go? Do you go through the camera, or you turn back, and what do you observe? What are the things, the do's and don'ts? It's very important that we bring them in that particular space. Issues of advanced driving, which we have spoken about, they are there, we're teaching them, what is it that they need to do? They must have advanced driving, they must know what's happening. It's very important that we deal with these things. But at the end of the day, all these things we're doing them so that a player doesn't have any worries. His worry, Braveli, is to give us the best of the best that is God and give us the best football. That's all we want from them. And that way, they will then be able to develop and take our national squad to the next level. It begins with the personal development. And when you have a personal development, what it means, we can't continue, to be honest with you, talking about, and we love this talk, players must take over. No, footballers must now take over. It's about time that footballers must take over. But we hardly say, guys,
are they ready?
Are we ready?
Yes.
Let's develop ourselves. Yes. Let's work and be ready. By the time that opportunity presents itself, we are gone.